You just might learn. Welcome back to another episode of Elevate and Illuminate, the Empowerment Podcast. I'm your host, Jamarcus Fields, founder and executive director of Iron Sharpens Iron. This season, we've been digging deep into mental health, how we cope, how we heal, and how we show up stronger for ourselves and our community. Today's guest is someone who has dedicated her work to equipping others with the tools to recognize, respond to, and support those experiencing mental health challenges. She serves as a mental health first aid facilitator with Sandra Eskenazi Mental Health Center, where she helps individuals, families, and organizations better understand how to care for one another, especially our youth. This conversation is about education, prevention, and empowerment. It's about learning how each of us can play a role in saving lives and building healthier communities. Welcome, everybody. Um, Thank y'all for being here. And to my guests, why don't you take a second and better acquaint yourself with the audience and tell them who you are?
Well, good evening, Jamarcus, and thank you so much. My name is Tracy Pruitt. I am a training facilitator at Sandra Eskenazi Mental Health Center. I am a clinician. I am a mother. I'm a wife. I'm a grandmother. The greatest title, um, and more. And I have worked with youth for over 35 years. Thank you for having me.
Um, for everyone that has tuned in, thank you for being here this evening. Um, just a reminder, the chat room is open. It is always open. Feel free to ask any questions that you may have, um, any comments, anything you want to add to the conversation, put it in the chat room. We will be sure to bring it into the conversation. Um, and so let's start right off. So, can you break down for those who what exactly is mental health first aid and why is this so vital in our communities today?
Well, thank you for asking. So, we have two different first aids. We teach adult mental health first aid as well as youth mental health first aid. I teach youth mental health first aid. And so, youth mental health first aid is simply it is the help offered a young person who may be experiencing a mental health challenge or crisis. And so the course is about a 6 hour course that can be broken into several segments. But at the end, our objective is that the person will understand the purpose of a youth mental health first aid and the role as a mental health first aider. We teach being able to recognize signs and symptoms of mental health or substance use challenges that may impact youth, also traumatic experiences, how our role as adults in helping young people to be resilient. And we teach it through an action plan. And then the last thing, and you know this because you took the training, we start off and we end talking about self care and the importance of the individual who is working with the youth of taking care of themselves so that they can support the young person who may be experiencing a mental health challenge or crisis.
Okay, absolutely. And I don't want to, nor do I like to assume that kind of knows what we're talking about. So can you kind of explain the difference between a challenge and a crisis?
Absolutely. Well, let me explain. There's a difference between a challenge, a disorder, and a crisis. So, a challenge, all of us can have mental health challenges. Challenges are when something is different, something happens different, and it doesn't go away quickly. So, it could be the death of someone, it could be a young person moving and have to leave the school that they previously attended or their friends leaving. It could be the loss of a job. I say all the time that um, for us who live with allergies before COVID, you would just say, "Oh, it's my allergies," or someone might just look at you and say, "Oh, it must be their allergies." And now, when people are sneezing or coughing and their eyes are red because of their allergies, we make this big announcement like, hey, wait, it's my allergies. And so that is an example of a mental health challenge. We all experience some type of mental health challenge during that time. And then, so that's a mental health challenge. A mental health disorder is diagnosable, and it impacts the way a young person thinks and respond, and just how they are able to live a healthy life. And then a crisis happen generally when we miss the signs. And so
Okay.
if we notice, or if a young person has been diagnosed and we get them the help that they need, the supports that they need, they don't necessarily have to go into a crisis. They may, but they don't have to. But a crisis is when you don't ask for permission. That's kind of when you're not doing the dialogue of how can I help you. When a crisis occurs, the young person's life is, or someone else's life is usually in danger. And so then that's when you would call immediately for immediate help.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that for us and explaining the differences for anyone who may have been questioning what the difference was. Um, because I know when I first came into the training with you, I didn't know the difference. So I
Mhm.
learned the difference during the training. Um, as I just mentioned, you facilitated a mental health first aid for youth training with ISI, and I initially when I asked, I was excited to get it going. Um, but it could be a bit challenging asking people to give up their whole Saturday to come to a training. But when we got there, and they did it, I was very thankful that all of the men and women that agreed to come, were receptive to doing it. And you made the class like very engaging, interactive. Like it was fun. It didn't feel like we were sitting in. What most people think a training is about to be boring and a lot of work. Like you kind of made it fun. So just out of curiosity, what stood out to you the most about the experience of working with our group?
So, you know, you're first of all, kudos to you. You have some great individuals that work for you. And I'm so excited that they are joining me and the other 3-4 million people that are trained as mental health first aiders, because they were just willing to learn.
Yeah,
They it was a sponge. And so let me go back. um it's not easy for trainers to train on Saturdays either, and and an all day training, as well as it was in the winter. And so and as you can remember, we didn't have the elevator, so some of your staff had to help me bring all those books up. But I just love the fact that they asked questions. I love that people told their own personal stories. There was individuals that work with you that have lived experiences. And for um if you don't know what lived experience is, that's a person who either lives with a mental health or substance use challenge, or they live in a home with a person that does. And so the questions that were asked,
mhm,
um the it's very hard for me to match my energy when it comes to all things mental health, because I just have a lot of energy, but they matched it. And I love the questions. I love the fact that they just talked about what they wanted to do for young people.
Right.
And and so I say all the time, people say young people are so misguided, but we have to be the change we want to see.
Say that.
And yeah, they were that, and I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you took me back, reminded me of having to climb up all those stairs with all your equipment. And I have to give a shout out to Iron Man Dre because you put him to
Oh
work
yeah.
that day.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was like, Dag, I really need to like give him like a gift card for food or something out of my own money because of course our grant doesn't pay for food. But he just, yeah, I don't know, he's probably starting to make sure he doesn't come too early now. He was early, and usually it's the person that's late that has to help out, right? But he was early, and so yeah, but he helped. I mean, we had a really good time. I mean, if I was to say, your group was probably one of the most engaging groups that I have worked with in the past. I know a lot of times when people work in the field of work, they feel like they've heard it all, but they were just like a blank canvas. Like, tell us what we need to know. I learned. I always think a good training is when you learn from others as well. So we just had a great dialogue, great learning. And so thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You know, the thing with like our group, and I kind of like the way that, it wasn't necessarily planned, but the way it was set up for us to do the youth training
Mhm.
first,
Yeah.
because the majority of us in that room, like we started our own personal journeys of incarceration as youth. So
Right.
it kind of took us back to a place of, where we were at that point of our lives, what things that we were not aware of then that played a part in, our decision making, how we reacted, responded to things, the not opening up to people. So clearly, we all had this mentality of, and this was prior to coming into the room, that we wanted to be the change that we wanted to
Mhm.
see. And that's what we were working on. So that's why we were so engaged because, a lot of us, you know, have to question. Not, and I know personally for me, like I don't question my journey anymore because I feel like to question my journey is to question God. But
Mhm.
I also have to be real that I've had moments where I've questioned what if.
Mhm.
What if I was educated on being able to notice what was going on with me? What if I had somebody in my life that I was comfortable enough to be transparent and naked with and to tell them when something was wrong with me rather than keeping all of that stuff inside? So when you look at the what ifs and understanding the platform that we have, the saying goes that, heavy is the head that wears the crown. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with the work that we do. So for us, we want to best prepare ourselves the best we can to have an impact and to be a valuable asset to someone else that may be dealing with a challenge, a crisis, and we be able to one identify it and to one help the individual.
Yeah. And I remember when we were doing the training, how it was just that moment. It was some aha moments, not just for you, but for other people in the training. And so I don't know if you remember, I just kind of stopped so people could just kind of lean into it, and lean into those feelings. And I mean, the thing of it is we cannot go back to the past, but it is so important for us as adults to do our due diligence to get the information we need so that we can help young people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what are some of the biggest warning signs we should look for in youth when it comes to mental health challenges?
So I would say, one, distancing.
Hmm.
uh, like one of the biggest that I see is not they put down a young person putting things away, like having childhood pursuits like playing t-ball or playing baseball or basketball or playing an instrument, and then not so they stop doing those things, but then they don't replace them with something else. That's one of the biggest challenges. I think also one thing that is a myth, that depression always looks like it looks like somebody sleeping all the time. Well, that could be, but it could be sleepless. It could be someone that's agitated that does not sleep,
Mhm.
as well as fear and how fear shows up. And I think that now that I'm saying, I remember that was the time where everyone got quiet when we started talking about anxiety. And I was saying how fear and, how anxiousness can show up as aggression. And I remember we had a room of mostly Black males. And I remember asking you all the question, would you feel comfortable saying that you're scared? And everybody said no. And I was saying how, for a man of color, you could put yourself in dangerous in certain situations saying I'm scared. And the only emotion that has been acceptable for men of color and now women of color is anger. That's the only thing emotion that you've been allowed to have. And so that is one of the biggest things, um, children or young people getting smart with the parent, or like, why are you asking me this? And a lot of times the underline, it is anxiety. They're scared and they don't know how to say they're scared. And if the truth be told, as adults, we model that for them.
Right.
As parents, we're scared, about maybe an individual that our young person is working, I mean, is hanging around, or their grades. And a lot of times we respond out of fear by yelling uh, at them. And so this is something that can be unlearned.
Right.
Yeah.
Good stuff. For anybody that's just joining us, the chat room is open. Any questions that you have or anything you want to add to the conversation, feel free to type it in the chat, and we will definitely bring it to the conversation. We are as we've been doing all of this season, we are still talking mental health. Our guest today is Tracy Pruitt, who is a mental health first aid training facilitator with Sandra Eskenazi Medical Health Center. Um, and you've come to the right place, and we're in the middle of this conversation. So, Tracy, how can parents, mentors, and community leaders support young people when they see those signs? Especially, people that don't feel like they're experts in mental health.
So first, one of the things is getting educated. You got to know what a sign is. You got to know how to see the sign, and you also have to know how to communicate appropriately with the young person. They don't communicate the way that we used to communicate.
For real.
To Yeah, to tell them to put their phones down, put their electronics down, it's not going to happen. And so we have to figure out their style of communication. And so, I'm old enough. I can remember when when we didn't even have call waiting. So, um, and definitely my youngest son never saw a house phone. So everything in his, everything with young people today are electronics. And so being able to have conversations with them, proximity, um, how you sit, open, um, because our nonverbal cues say more than our verbal cues, period. Um, so being very mindful, are our arms folded? Um, not telling the story about your childhood. And I tell a lot of young people who work in the field that I know you may think that you still are young because you're 26, but if you're working with a 7-year-old, you're ancient. And so you know, just knowing how to talk to them and listen. Um and letting them know that they matter. I mean, some of the things that we struggle with as adults when it comes to young people, these are the same things that we want. I want to be seen, heard, and understood. If I'm
Hmm.
going and if I'm in a conversation, I want to be seen, heard, and understood. And so do they. And so
Right.
reframing from talking about, well, when I was in school, this didn't happen, and you all are this, and we didn't have this. And some of these same things happen. I said, like, I can remember when I was I think 13, and my then boyfriend lived on the other side of town. I think it was like 2 weeks before everybody found out, like right before going back to school, that he got caught cheating, and we broke up. But now you can break up, a young person can break up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, and everybody else may know even before that individual, because everything is at the touch of a hand. So just realizing that, understanding that, and not talking to them about, oh my gosh, young people are so this, that, and the other. We've created the world for them. And
Absolutely.
so we say that they're so disrespectful, they're so this, that, and the other. We created that world for them. So I think it's important for us just to meet them where they are, and also say, I'm sorry, say, I don't understand, say, can we learn this together? We don't always have the answers. Hence why, adolescents, that uh middle school age can be rough, because that's just the developmental stage of adolescent. They start to question authority because they realize that everything that you say is not true. They realize, like, Santa Claus may not be real. We live in an apartment, we don't even have a chimney to go down. And so they start questioning authority. And a lot of times, it becomes hard for parents, mentors, community leaders to even know how to support them and how to see the signs. And then I another thing, and I think I know I mentioned it to your group, and I try to mention this every time that I teach youth mental health first aid, or just even have any talks with individuals who work with young people. If you are going in to fix them and to make them think like you're doing a disservice to them, and you don't need to be working with them. And I stand on that.
Mm, I heard that. I stand on it with you.
We got to meet
So
people where they are.
they are absolutely, absolutely. So, in your experience, what's the biggest misconception people have about youth and mental health?
I think that what the biggest misconception is, so when I talk about mental health, when I talk about what I do, uh, adults are always like, "Oh yeah, because we need help with young people." Um, and so the biggest misconception is that it's just young people that need to address their mental health, and not adults. The other misconception is that young people don't want to live well. They don't know, and a lot of times they don't have the vocabulary to say or to express what they are feeling. But
Right.
it's just a big misconception to think that they don't want to, they want to be disrespectful. They want to go out and kill people. A 13-year-old with a gun something was broken. Something has been broken for a 13-year-old to even want a gun.
Right.
And so I go back to adults. And I mean, I've not always made the right decisions in working with youth or my children. And if they're on here, they'll probably comment now that you'll probably get a comment if my personal kids are on here. However, um, young people don't always know how to say what. So it's up to us to recognize it. You don't have to be an expert. I tell people all the time, my grandmother was the first therapist that I knew. We would get upset and she would say, put some peppermint in your mouth and just breathe. I teach that. I teach using peppermint essential oils to help to reduce anxiety. I teach breathing. And so you don't have to be a licensed clinician, but you can be a person that is aware enough to get them the help right then to get them the proper professional help that they need.
Wow. That's big, not knowing how to say it. And it makes me think also not having anyone to like really say it to.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of households aren't, you know, that type of communication isn't really practiced in the
Mm-hmm.
home. So when they get to a place, even some of those who know what to say, they may not necessarily be comfortable saying it because
Absolutely.
this isn't what I was taught to do. This isn't what we typically do in my house. Like I've been taught to, boy, quit crying, you know, deal with it, toughen up. So
Mm.
we think that when life's problems hit us, we supposed to just toughen up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Or the thing that children should be seen and not heard. So you hear when I was growing up, children should be seen and not heard. So you hear children should be seen and not heard, and then they do something. You say, "Why didn't you tell me?" Because I was supposed to be seen and quiet. And so we send these mixed messages to them. And Stephanie, you're absolutely right. Their brain is still developing. They don't have, so they're going to do things that are they're going to be impulsive.
yeah,
Uh, they're going to be erratic. They're going to say things, and it's up to us as the adult to notice. And so, even how we respond. So, they may come maybe they do want to talk. Just saying, "What do you want?" Never mind, nothing. Just not giving your full attention.
yeah,
You're watching TV, you're scrolling, with the remote, you're texting on your phone. I'm listening. But are you? What is your body language saying to them? And so I think that's just I think it's important. And I also think no matter how long, and so we talk about mentors, no matter how long you have been a mentor, no matter how long you work with young people, things change. I've been working with young people for over 35 years, and things have changed since then. Um
right,
yeah, for the community leader, this is our future. And so, you put money where you need to put money. Listen to them, bring them to the table. Can't nobody answer for you like you can answer for you. Um,
mm,
and it's okay for community leaders not to have all of the answers. So the police don't have to have all of the answers. The pastors don't have to have all of the answers. The principals, the teachers, they don't have to have all the answers, but get the people in the room to help you understand how to support the young people that you're governing over.
right. Wow. I know in our line of work that we do with iron sharpens iron, I know whenever we go in to deal with youth, Um, after I've done my initial talk, you know, I immediately start observing the room. So I'm of course I've been taught to look for signs. So I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
for the withdrawn, kids. I'm looking for the kids that, are very quiet, maybe um a way in. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking and trying to look at them, see if there's anything on them that can give me something relatable to engage them in conversation with to get them comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And what I often find is that those very ones that seem withdrawn, that seem quiet, when you make them comfortable enough to talk to you by finding some common ground with them, like I'm the last one out the room because I can't get them to be quiet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you say meeting them where they are, um, and being able to read those signs, like, that was one of the biggest takeaways that I got from the training, and being able to identify that and then finding some common ground to make them comfortable with me. Because
Absolutely.
you have to think, like, especially with our population, we deal with primarily at-risk youth.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you're talking at-risk youth, and I'm speaking from someone that used to be an at-risk youth.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember the countless times I had somebody trying to talk to me, trying to, teach me, lecture me, fix me, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with that was there were so many people coming to me trying to fix me. I had no relationship with none of them.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, you're just a stranger and
Yep.
I'm not comfortable talking to you.
Yes.
So
So.
I then, decide, like, like we say, be the change you want to see. So
Mm-hmm.
rather than just coming in talking at these kids, like, let me be relational with them and make them
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with who I am, and try to create an atmosphere where they don't see me today and then don't see me no more.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. And also, when you talk about the population of young people that you've worked with, at least three adults have already lied to them.
Mm,
And
wow.
at least three adults have already lied to them, whether it's a parent, whether it's you an official, uh, a correctional officer or police, or a mentor. And so when we are meeting young people, or when we're starting to engage in conversation with them, we have to remember that they are interviewing, just like you're interviewing them. Like, let me see what they like. Let me look to see if they're over to the side. They are interviewing you to see if you are for real. And so you
Absolutely.
have to create relationships. You have to be honest with them. I used to have several young people that I work with, and I counted an honor and a privilege. So a lot of people will say, I worked with the ones that always went to juvenile or girls school or boys school. I counted an honor or a privilege that I got to work with the young people that people deemed the hardest. And so I just kept it 100 with them in the beginning. So even when we would have a rap team meeting right before they went to court, I would tell them, this is what I'm going to say. I'm not going to give you no surprises. You and your mom, you and your dad, you and whoever, y'all didn't keep your appointments. Here, it's all written down, and I will show them. Now, I'm not saying that they would be happy, but I was very open and honest with them. And a lot of times, even though our relationship may have been rocky, because I was honest with them, that we started building a relationship. And
Right.
so a lot of time the judge would say, well, what do you suggest? I suggest that we give them another opportunity, and let's just keep the suspended commitment to boys school or suspended commitment to girls school, and maybe in the next 3 months, things will be different. And I cannot remember a time, maybe one young person, one family that I worked with, that they just did not do it. But and I would tell them, if you go to because they get arrested, and of course first people they call is the mentor or their therapist, like, I need you to come and see me. So I would say, like, I got something going on this weekend, you can get arrested if you want to, I'm not coming, and I'm taking Monday off, I'm not coming. And so but I was consistent, I was fair, and then it would be like, okay, don't come at this time because this is the time we get extra basketball time or whatever. And so I listened to them and I didn't do it. But you just have to be consistent, and you have to understand you may be coming in behind 3 4 other adults who did not treat them well.
Right.
And just because you work with young people don't mean that you treat them well. Some people, they're doing what we call counter transference. They're trying to heal themselves and their inner child through working with young people. And
Wow.
they don't necessarily do right by young people. Everybody that's working with young people don't do right. I mean, I don't know why, because you're not doing it for the money. But however, there are some people who work with young people that do not treat them fair. And I'm not just talking about mentors, I'm talking about teachers. There's just people who work with young people that should not work with young people.
Right. Wow. That's heavy. So we got a few comments in the chat that I want to address. So Kwame says, "Thank you for your service, because everybody is so down on the YNs, the youngsters, when actually those youngsters are our babies, whom are crying out for help and searching for their identity. So he appreciates the work you do."
I appreciate you as well, Kwame, and thank you. I count it an honor and a privilege to work with young people. I do.
Megan says, "It's always something to learn from different generations, from experiences and changes in the times."
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Totally
When
agree.
we stop learning, we stop growing.
Yes. Stephanie agrees. When youth feel like they are in a shared space, then we open the door for better communication.
I love that. I love that. And not even a safe place, but a shared space.
Yes.
That's good, Stephanie. Thank you.
Um, DMH, the kids need someone that's going to be consistent, hold them accountable, and educate them. Education and knowledge is key, but being seen and loved correctly is a must. Ain't that it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Much
Absolutely.
love and respect. Wow.
Yeah.
So I want to take a slight turn. Um,
Okay.
so I'm going to dig into your business a little bit.
Oh
so
Lord.
so I know you were talking about a book before, um,
Mhm.
geared towards women. And I know one of my questions was, like, okay, interesting. Why the women lane and not the youth? Um, but what inspired you to write it, and how does it connect to your passion for mental health?
So thank you. I'm glad that you asked that question. So when I left, so I worked, like I said, I worked like 35 plus years with youth. And so I left working in the school system um to come home. My youngest son was going to high school. I just wanted to be there to support him. And so I decided to leave, and so and just really work on my private practice, right? So goal was with about 6 or 7 young people. But as I started working with them, I started working with some young women as well. And so I had this thing like, if we can help young mothers address their mental health, it's going to help them know how to communicate
Okay.
appropriately with with their with their children. And
Yes.
so I wrote a woman's journal, and it should be out. I don't know. I just finished up everything. And so by the end of the year, maybe beginning of next year, I'm not for sure. It'll be going to the publisher in a couple of weeks. So you see, I'm throwing it out there. That means I have to finish up these last couple of things. But and it was birthed from a conversation with my son. My youngest son is 22, and he it was I had responded to him in a certain way. He called my name or something, and he was like, "Why are you so mad?" And the truth of it, and it just rung in my ear, him talking about being mad, when the truth of it is that I was living a very unbalanced life and I was tired. But it came off as if I was mad. And so that's kind of what it is. It's a journal for women to just be able to identify their true feelings and to be able to express themselves. And so my hope is that as women read this, they'll be able to take off societal roles that women have to play and be able to address what they're really feeling. And, a lot of times it's exhaustion. It's not the mad black woman or the mad white woman. It's exhaustion. And so that's kind of what I'm uh, walking through um, with these ladies as they read the book.
Hmm. Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And putting yourself
I,
in a position to allow us to hold you accountable to getting this thing done and put out it.
right, right. Like I think like tonight I need to like spend an hour doing a couple of more things so I can make sure. But yeah, the book is, and I will let you know when it come out. It should be coming out at the end of like maybe November, December, or the beginning of the year. But the book is finished. I just have to put some finishing touches on it.
Okay. So going back to the chat, Kwame asked, so what was your most memorable challenge when dealing with the youth?
Oh, Kwame, I have so many. I think the most memorable challenge is I was working with a family, and the grandparents were raising the teenage girl. um Both of her parents had just rejected her. They would wouldn't tell her the truth. They would lie, and they wouldn't follow through. And so I was working with her doing some behavioral work, like trying to help her with that. And I remember, and so then she was just like really she would be very verbally aggressive to her grandparents. So she was dealing with a lot of rejection, and they had this big dog. Um, and oh my God, is this being taped? Well, you know what? That was so long ago that I cannot be held accountable for what I'm going to say happened. And so it was like my second time visiting her. And when you have a young person that is dealing with or experiencing rejection, a lot of times it's like, what, I'm going to reject you before you get to reject me. And so she said, I'm going to sick my dog on you. And so her grandfather was a little older, And I said, if you sick that dog on me, well, mind you, I was her fourth behaviorist that had worked with her in a 2-month period. And I said, if you stick that dog on me, I said, I'm going to sling your grandfather in front of me and the dog is going to bite your grandfather. And I said, and so do it. That's not the most therapeutic thing to say. Let me say this first. That's not the most therapeutic thing to say. And I said, and his leg is going to be bit because I'm jumping on your grandfather's back. I'm going to sling him in front of me. I'm going to jump on his back and I'll put the dog out there. And I said, and I still, it was a Tuesday evening, and I said, and I still will be back for our visit on Thursday. And she just looked. So, mentors, please don't do that. What I did was not therapeutic, but you asked me a question and I answered. And I ended up working with her for maybe a year and a half. And I'm not saying that I saw all of the best outcomes, but I did see some changes. And so that's what matters.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
And that was
Uh,
that was a memorable moment. It was because after I said that, I was like, how am I going to get out this house if this dog really, if she sicks this dog on me? And I'm really going to have to follow through. Um, I really going to have to follow through with putting the grandfather in front of me because I told her. So I think what helped the situation, Kwame, is that the grandfather was like, no, no, stop, don't do that. And so she didn't.
oh, man. Yes, thank you for sharing. Okay, so DMH is actually David Hollivan. I was wondering who it was.
Oh, yeah. I trained him on Saturday.
Yes, that's what he was thanking you in the chat for doing that. Said thanks for the training on Saturday, Tracy. Great material. His question is, how important do you think the grandparents are in the kids' lives?
Oh, so David, you asked me as a grandparent. I think that grandparents are like superheroes in grandkids' lives. But exactly,
Hey,
exactly.
matter
We
of fact, let me interject just for a second because I know my grandbabies is on here because they mom have been in the chat. Hey, Amaya, Elise, love y'all. All right, go ahead.
so I think whoever are caring adults, whoever are the caring adults in that young person's life, they all need to help. Um, and for some people, th- some people, grandparents are having to raise their grandchildren,
Yes.
and that's a different dynamic than a grandparent who gets to come alongside and support. Um, what I see in this individual I was talking about, when I work with young people or families, and the grandparent is they're the I'm drawing a blank. Um, mm, they're the guardian.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm doing a lot of work with them on their own shame and guilt about what they feel that they didn't do with their child, and now they're having to raise their grandchild. So I think that when a grandparent can step in as support and not having to raise or not having to be the guardian of the young person, um you can get, it's just more balance. But I
Right.
also think that it's important for us to recognize there's some young people, their parents or grandparents are not there. This is just the reality. And so we have to find a supported adult that they are with. And we talked about that even in the training, being a supportive adult. And I think every one of us and everybody was able to identify a supported adult other than their family members. If you have family members that are and parents that are supportive, of course, that's what we want. But also tap into those other supportive adults, a coach, a teacher, Sunday school teacher, pastor, just the person down the street that talks to them, that will support them. We want to bring all of those people.
Mm. Yes, yes. So what so how do you personally balance being a mental health professional, a facilitator, a soon to be author while protecting your own mental health?
So I have learned to say no unapologetically.
Hmm.
Um,
Can you train me on that?
the thing of it is, the majority of the thing people ask you for, they don't really need it. But I'm not saying you. I'm gonna talk
Mhm.
about. I was just fool enough to do it.
Mm.
Uh, and so I've really learned the art of no. One of the things that I have started doing this year, I've started getting up earlier in the morning before I do anything, and just taking time for myself, because I recognize at the end of the night, you really just don't have that time. You kind of say, like, once I finish doing this, that, and the other, I'm going to chill. But people have chipped away from you all day. And so I've started getting up very early in the morning. And most people don't need you till about 8 o'clock in the morning. So I try to have at least like 3 hours, 3.5 hours to myself,
Mhm.
just my time. Um, Hence, while it's like 7:50, I think I told y'all, and I know I told David them that about 4 o'clock in the evening, you can't get too many philosophical things from me, because I'm starting to prepare to wind down for the night. But
Right.
I couldn't even remember what guardian to say guardian. But I think that it is imperative. You have to take care of you first. If you don't take care of you, you're serving a disservice to people. Um, Hence my book came because I was tired. I wasn't
Mhm.
I was exhausted. I wasn't mad. I was tired and exhausted, because I had been doing all of these different things and not asking for help, and wanting to make sure that, I did it myself, and I needed to check this email. I needed to check that. And so when he said that, like, why are you so mad? It just really resonated, like, why am I so mad? But I just
Right.
was tired. And so I am not giving anyone more of me than I'm giving me. And I'm not making an apology about it. Um, I'm not, I had my friends over the first Saturday in January, and I just told them I'm not no longer going to be your therapist. So if you bring me a problem, have you talked to your. And so in my outside life, I also am a minister at my church. So every area of my life, I am giving to people. But I've made the decision, I'm not giving more of me to anyone else than I'm giving to myself. And it's been fantastic. Goals that I have had for the last 3 or 4 years, they've been met. They were met in the first quarter of the year. And that's because I chose me first.
Amazing. Yeah, I feel you, Misty. I need that mindset.
I
Yes.
mean, just,
Wow.
I'm not saying, let me say this, I'm not saying it's easy,
No.
but I've made a decision that I am not going to rescue other people because they choose to live their life the way that they choose to live their life. And I'm not saying I'm not going to help. And there are times when emergencies come up, and you have to just, there are times that something may happen that I might not get to go to bed at the regular time that I normally go. But people are not just calling me anymore. I'm not just the first person that they're calling, because
Mhm.
I've made boundaries, and boundaries are not for anybody else. Boundaries are for you. People only do what you allow them to do.
Mm.
And
Facts.
if you have adult children, if you have adult children, you've learned that. They talk to you when they want to talk to you. They do whatever they want to do. And you calling them like, hey, I'm busy. I'm hanging out with my friends. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And so they make boundaries with you. I
Right.
tell one of my clients in my private work that I do, she was so upset about um making sure she had to cook and clean and everything. And so, football season, I said, ask your husband, does he really care if you're cooking a full meal? I said, I bet you he would say to you, um, you can give him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and just leave him alone. And she goes, oh my God, he said that. And she's like, how did you know? I was like, because I think my husband probably thinks the same thing. I said, he's made boundaries with you. And so I had to help teach her, show her how he's made boundary. He goes to the basement, he shuts the door, and he does not come back until the last football game is over. I said, that's the boundary that he's made with you. You can make boundaries with others. So, um, so yeah, she was like, oh wow. And so yeah, we can make boundaries are for us. They're not for other people.
Right. Wow.
So
That part.
Misty, I see you're saying, absolutely they do. I'm a giver, but tired. Misty, I am too, but I'm not giving all of me. I'm no longer giving all of me to anyone and to any other organization and not and not give to me first. And the reason why, and the other thing I want to say to that, because what happens is when we are tired, when we are worn out, guess who gets the brunt of it? The people that we love.
Hmm.
And I can't go back in the mistakes that I've made before, but going forward, if I'm a better me, I'm a better mother, I'm a better wife, I'm a better friend, I'm a better employee, I'm a better mental health therapist. Who wants their therapist tired? No telling what they may say to them.
Absolutely. So as we get ready to wrap up, what advice would you give to someone who feels like starting their healing journey is overwhelming or even impossible?
Yeah. So nothing is impossible with God. That's the first thing that I would say. Um
Amen.
and start small. um the things that and so when you talk about the healing journey, all of the hurt didn't start at one time, and so all the healing is not going to start. It's not all going to happen overnight. And enjoy the journey of healing. Enjoy the journey of healing. um and even in your healing, you have ebbs and flows, and sometimes you may go back to something that you thought that you were healed from, and you realize that there's still some work that you have to do. But I just say, just um start small. Find, take care of yourself, and then find someone that can help you work, whether it's if there's some whether it's a therapist or a coach. I do say that if you have unresolved trauma and unresolved mental health um, challenges, that you work with a mental health clinician first, and then you may be able to move on to a coach. But I'm not going to say don't talk to a coach. I'm not. Whatever you feel comfortable, but find someone to help you. If we are going to help young people, we're going to help this next generation. We have to be as whole as possible.
Mm, nice. Thank you. Um, thank you for joining us this evening. Uh,
Thank you.
I told you prior to even coming on how valuable and impactful I thought your voice would be. I knew that it would be. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me. I love when I love the work that you do. it's hard for me to find people that are as energetic as me about mental health, and you are that person. So I love having the conversations about what you and your organization is doing. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for keep getting the word out there. I think I told you when I first met you, one person, we can't do this alone. And so I appreciate you. I appreciate your staff for all the work that you're doing. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you, thank you. And to all of our guests, thank y'all for tuning in this evening as we continue this conversation, much needed conversations about mental health for ourselves and in the work that we do in terms of having impact with others. Um, your presence is always important to get educated, to obtain more knowledge about mental health so that you can be an asset to someone else. With that, I'll
Can I
give my
give a
close.
shout out to somebody real quick?
Yes, absolutely.
Hi to Sandy. I'm finished.
I'll give my closing reflection and then we'll get out of here. Make sure y'all, if y'all, you know, love this, enjoy this, love the conversation, make sure y'all hit the subscribe button. That way, every time I go live, it'll send you a notification. Make sure y'all check out the website, Iron Sharpens Iron, WAST.org, where you can see what we got going on, different ways you can get involved, you can support and see the different events that we have going on. As this month of September is, we've deemed our giving month. Being that September is my birth month. This year I turned 50 this past Monday. Um, thank you, thank you. And so we've deemed this our giving month. We have a community meet and greet coming up in South Bend, Indiana on September the 20th, which is a Saturday from 6 to 10 p.m. It will be a community meet and greet. And then we will transition into a concert, which will be a birthday celebration for me. And you can find out more information on the website. With that, let me give my closing reflection. Today's conversation reminded us that mental health is not just an individual responsibility, it's a community responsibility. Through her work in mental health first aid, our guest, Tracy, has shown us how powerful it is when we equip everyday people to recognize the signs, respond with compassion, and be part of someone's lifeline. And what I love most is how her upcoming book expands that mission, giving women the tools and encouragement to prioritize their own well being. Because when women are empowered to heal, families grow stronger and communities thrive. To everyone listening, let this be your takeaway. You don't have to be a professional to make a difference in someone's mental health journey. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is listen, care, and connect someone to the help they need. This season is all about illumination, shining a light on what often goes unspoken. And today we are reminded that knowledge, empathy, and courage can save lives. This has been Elevate and Illuminate, the Empowerment Podcast. Until next time, keep showing up, keep healing, and keep being the light. Love is love. I'll see everybody again next Wednesday. Be blessed.
Thank you.